and Georgia Tech, Clemson coming up this week, and North Carolina State the next week. And that kind of brings me to a broader perspective on just ACC football, with not a whole lot going on with the Tigers this week. As we talked about before we hit the record button, 2-6 against the Power Five. North Carolina State, that looked like one of those under the weeds, could be a game that jumps up at Clemson, and still could be. We'll see. They did lose to Mississippi State this week, but do you have any thoughts about the ACC?
It's bad. It's worse than bad. I've 2 years in a row, I've gone on record saying I thought the ACC was going to be better, that year. And it wasn't last year, and it's looking like that's not going to be the case this year. I mean, I think I told you on here a week or two ago, I thought North Carolina State had a chance to win as many as 10 games. I thought they got a lot of guys back from that team last year. They had decimated by injuries last year. I thought Dave Dorn might have his best team to date there in Raleigh this year. And, that's a bad loss. And it's not just because of who they lost to, but it's the way they lost. And I admit I didn't get to watch it. But it looked like, from what I could tell, it was a pretty sloppy performance. They turned the ball over several times. I think you said they allowed a kickoff return for a touchdown, and they were held out in the end zone. I mean, it's just a bad loss. The ACC in general, like you said, it's just bad. That UNC losing to Virginia Tech week 1, that just set the tone for the season, in my opinion, and was fortune to, how can I say, just an indicator of what's coming down the road. I don't see a lot of big wins for ACC teams, out of conference over Power 5 teams, especially towards the end of the year when they get to those SEC rivalries. I mean, outside of Clemson, being favored over South Carolina, is Georgia Tech going to beat Georgia? I doubt that. I mean, is Louisville going to beat? I guess Louisville and Kentucky might be a toss-up, but who knows?
I don't think it's a toss-up, Jason. I don't think it's a toss-up. I think they got a chance, but I don't think it's a toss-up. And
that Louisville team is just going in. That's another one going in the wrong direction in year 3 under Scott Satterfield. I don't know what's going on there. That's another one that I thought was a really good hire, and it is just not working out. Something's not right in Louisville. I don't know what it is. But outside of Clemson, I don't feel good about any of the ACC teams in those SEC matchups. I mean, I don't feel good about Florida State against Florida, that's for sure.
And this what surprises me, Jason, and this is coming from a guy that tries to call it straight, even though I've got a few people out there that consider me an ACC basher, but that's because the ACC's been awful. And
they make it so easy.
they make it easy. So I was sitting here, though, in 2016 saying that the SEC is still the best conference, but the ACC actually played better football that year. I was basically evaluating the results on the field and saying the ACC, from Clemson winning the national championship on down, Florida State winning an Orange Bowl on down the line, even the likes of Wake Forest winning bowl games, they went 10-3 in postseason play, to basically say that this conference is right on the cusp based on where they're located. People are moving south. They are in great recruiting territory, that they're in a good place to possibly challenge the SEC. And I thought that the ACC was on the upward trajectory at that point. I thought there were good things ahead for the conference at that point, and they've done nothing but get their brains beat out. I ran some numbers the other day, 22-60 before this season against the Power 5, the last, I think, 4 football seasons.
Yeah, and how many of those were wins by Clemson?
Yeah, most of them.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. I thought in 2016 the ACC was the best Power 5 league that year. I thought they took a step back in 2017, no doubt, but I thought they were still respectable. But since then, it's been all downhill, and it seems to get a little bit worse every season. And going back 2 or 3 years, you thought that, they were turning things around, that there were some coaches in place, there might be some stability with these teams. They were getting some traction in recruiting, but you can go look at each individual school and maybe point out one or two reasons why it's just not worked out. But as a whole, it's just not worked out. I do believe Mac Brown's doing good things in Chapel Hill with North Carolina. I just don't think they're there yet. This is only year 3. People see he's recruiting better, and they think it's going to translate instantly, and that's just not how things work. It usually takes 2 or 3 years. I think they're going to be good. They're just not quite there yet. But schools like Miami, I mean, they've recruited okay over the last few years. Florida State's recruited, for the most part, okay over the last few years. They shouldn't be as bad as they are. It's really hard to believe if you want to be honest.
Yeah, and for as much as is expected out of Miami, I think that Florida State's really the culprit, because they were matching. They were, of course, the king of the hill 2014, and then there was that transition with Clemson, but they could still match Clemson on the field 2015, 16, 17, and yeah, they were pretty much the leader of the downfall. They need to be good for the league to be good.
Yeah, Clemson needs Florida State to be, to turn it around and get better. They need the league needs Virginia Tech. And I shouldn't say Clemson. The league needs Virginia Tech and Florida State and Miami, and in North Carolina State to at least be good every few years. But Florida State, Virginia Tech, Miami, those are 3 teams that should be in the top 25 most years. I mean, and they just haven't been in the last 5 years for the most part. It's just fallen way off at all 3 schools, and it's really mind blowing, to be honest. I love the Justin Fuente hire at Virginia Tech when they made it. I thought it was the best hire of that offseason, but man, he's had a rough time there for whatever reason. Transfers just leaving by the buttload every year. It's just not a good look. And I know they beat North Carolina in week 1, but I'm real interested to see how the rest of their season plays out, and if he'll be there next year.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be a recruiting giant, but they had a recruiting class in the 50s. They're usually in the 20s.
Yeah,
is where they need to be.